So I just completed this illustration. It's pretty rough. I don't think I'm actually going to end up using it, but at least use it as a demonstration of the process for texturing this for the purposes of the book. So once the illustration's done, we're going to rip up the edges of the paper. Now we want to rip as much of the edge as possible just because it'll give it a better texture when it's inserted in the book, but we can fudge some of the more unfortunate edges with Photoshop by just taking ripped edge and mirroring it there. The next thing we do is we crumple it up. And then when we unfold it, we get a much better texture than we would have otherwise, and then we can also just straight up smudge our hand all around on it. And doing this just gives us a much more interesting texture than we would have otherwise. Already this drawing looks a lot more interesting than it did. Of course the head is still a little lacking, and I'm definitely going to probably redraw that aspect of it physically and then Photoshop it back on, but definitely adds some nice things to the drawing. So once we import this into the InDesign file, it'll have a cool texturing. The last thing we're going to do is dunk it in a pond. So charcoal does some really interesting things when it interacts with water. You can get weird little smudges and stuff, so we're just going to dunk this in this creek. For a little second there, that should be good. Now we can take a napkin or a paper, or a tissue paper rather, and just kind of smudge some things around. Use our finger as well. You can see we get all sorts of crazy things, and I can obviously go as crazy or as, not crazy as I want. I'm gonna kind of stretch this one. I'm gonna do a lot more with this one than I normally might, just because it might help salvage the drawing a bit. Oh, that looks really cool. Then we can just give it a few more tissue dabs to kind of dry the paper out a bit. And also leave some weird markings and stuff. Once that's done, we're going to want to leave this to dry, obviously. And then once it's dry again, I'll crumple it up one final time, then it'll be ready to scan.